All right, so welcome to the deep dive. Um, we take your sources, your stuff, and kind of distill it down to the most important stuff, the juice, the really good stuff.
Right.
So think of this like your shortcut.
hmm
You don't have time to read all the books, watch all the videos, all of that, but we do.
Yeah, and today's deep dive is particularly juicy. It's all about how to make money online, potentially enough to quit your job.
Yeah, and a lot of people have that dream. That's a very common dream,
It is.
but very few people actually achieve it.
Yeah, I mean, it's one thing to watch a YouTube video about it.
Right.
It's another thing to actually do it. So how do you bridge that gap?
Exactly.
I
And that's
mean,
exactly what we're going to be looking at today. The source you sent me for this deep dive was Ali Abdaal's YouTube
yeah.
video, How to Actually Make Money Online in 2025 dash case study.
Yep. Really good one.
It's a great video. And he had a really interesting guest on there named Aman. And Aman kind of told his story about how he went from, being a, a a college student living at home to actually making a significant amount of money online, enough to quit his job.
Yep.
So how do we take what Aman did and apply it to our own lives?
Yeah, what can we learn from this guy and what actionable steps can we take?
Absolutely. So Aman's story begins in May 2020. So we're going back a few years. He's 19 years old. He's living at home,
Okay.
and he sees this video by Ali Abdaal about making money online. The whole idea of like financial freedom is like brand new to him. Okay. So he's just like blown away by this. And the crazy thing is within a week of watching that video, he launches his first online course on
Wow.
Skillshare.
A week. That's incredible. He didn't
Yeah.
mess around.
No, he didn't.
Yeah.
And Ali actually makes a really good point in this video, that 99% of the people who watch this kind of content never take action. So what was it about Aman? What made him different? That's what we really need to kind of get to the bottom of.
Yeah, what set him apart? I mean, most people would watch that and be like, oh, that's interesting, and then go back to scrolling on TikTok.
Yeah, and Aman actually mentions a couple of things. One was he had a really high level of self-belief. And this wasn't like arrogance or anything like that,
hmm
but he just genuinely believed that if other people could do it, he could do it too. If he put in the work and the time, he could figure it out.
So it was less about believing he was, uniquely talented or gifted, and more about just believing in his ability to work hard and learn.
Absolutely. He also mentioned that the fact that Ali Abdaal, wasn't like some celebrity or someone who was like, born into wealth or something like that.
Yeah.
He just seems like a regular guy
Yeah.
who had, figured this out. And so that made it feel more attainable to him. Like, this is something that I could actually do.
Right. Like it wasn't Barack Obama telling him to go start a business.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. So it's like that relatability factor was huge.
Mm.
And that's a big takeaway for us as well.
Right.
Right? It's like that belief that we can actually achieve some level of success. That's a muscle that we could build.
Totally. And it's interesting you mention, action because Aman also talked about how he's always had this strong bias for action, as he called it. Like he's very much an act first and
Yeah.
figure things out later kind of person.
Yeah, and there's a perfect example of this. He was working as a software engineer, full-time job, and and he just decides one day that he wants to quit,
hmm
and he decides this and quits within 24 hours. He like the day that he decided he wanted to quit, he drafted his resignation letter, and then the next morning he sent it to his boss.
Oh, wow. That's crazy. I mean, most people would spend weeks or even months agonizing over a decision like that.
Right. Most people have like analysis paralysis.
Right.
They want to plan everything out. They want to make sure everything is perfect before they take any action.
Yeah.
But Alman was just like, I'm going to do this and then I'll figure out the rest later.
Yeah, and that's really interesting because Ollie talks a lot about how the most important thing, especially in the beginning, is just getting started, putting yourself out there. All that upfront analysis and planning can actually become a form of procrastination.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You can get so caught up in trying to make everything perfect that you never actually do anything.
Yeah, you're just stuck in that planning phase forever.
Yeah. So what was Iman's first move after he quit his job?
Yeah,
Well, he decides that he's going to create a Skillshare course on C programming.
yeah.
And he does this in a few days. Now, here's the kicker. He has no experience creating online courses.
Okay.
He has no equipment, no fancy cameras, no microphones, no nothing. In fact, he had to borrow a microphone from a friend.
Really?
Yeah. So he just kind of, he outlined the course in a couple hours. He filmed it in an afternoon,
Yeah.
edited it really quickly, and then boom, it's live within 3 days.
Wow, he was really resourceful. I mean, talk about working with what you've got.
Yeah, and that's a really important point, right? Like, you don't have to have the perfect setup, the perfect equipment, all this stuff to get started. Like, the first thing you create doesn't have to be flawless. It doesn't have to be the final version, the best version. Like, the most important thing is to just break that initial inertia, take that first step. It's like learning to ride a bike.
Right. You don't get good at it by just watching other people do it. You got to get on the bike and fall a couple of times.
Exactly. You have to be willing to try and possibly fail and then learn from those failures.
Yeah, those early stumbles, that's where the real learning happens.
So let's talk about the results of this first Skillshare course.
Mm,
After 4 years, it made about $1,500. Now, I'm guessing some of you listening right now might be a little bit underwhelmed by that number.
right.
We're so used to hearing these online success stories where people are making, tens of thousands of dollars a month, right? And it all seems to happen overnight.
Yeah, everyone wants that overnight success story, but the reality is that it's usually a much more gradual process.
Exactly. And, the thing is, we only hear about the outliers. We only hear about the people who are making the really big bucks, right?
Mhm.
We don't hear about all the people who are making a few $100s a month or even nothing at all.
Right, we don't see the 99% who try and don't become millionaires.
Exactly. And so that creates this really skewed perception of what's actually typical.
Hmm.
And it's important to understand that failure is a part of the process.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Like Ali himself talks about how he had like 8 or 9 failed businesses before he actually found one that worked.
Wow.
And those failures weren't wasted effort. Like he learned so much from each one of those.
Yeah, he talked about how he had to learn how to build websites, how to
Yeah.
code, how to handle payments, how to get customers, all that stuff.
Exactly. So he gained all this practical, hands-on knowledge that you just can't get from reading a book or watching a YouTube video.
Mhm.
And it's almost counterintuitive, right? Because he has millions of subscribers on YouTube, millions of people who are interested in making money online, yet a huge percentage of them never actually take any action.
It's weird, right? Like, why would you watch all that content and then not even try to implement it?
Right. And Ahmed actually talks about this. And he says that, for him, that first Skillshare course, even though it was eventually taken down, it provided him with really valuable feedback, and it kept him going. It was a step forward, a small step, but it was a step in the right direction. And he says that, a lot of times it takes multiple attempts before you find something that really works.
Yeah. It's all about iteration,
Mm.
trying things out, seeing what sticks.
Exactly. So let's talk about the concept of difficulty.
Mhm.
A lot of people think that if making money online is hard, if it's not easy right from the start, that they're not cut out for it. But even people who are super successful, like Ali's colleague Izzy, who has hundreds of thousands of subscribers, they still find it hard.
Yeah, I mean, if it was easy, everyone would be doing it.
Right, exactly. So we have to develop this thing called pain tolerance, right?
Yeah.
This ability to handle the discomfort and the setbacks when things don't go according to plan. If it were easy, everyone would be a millionaire.
Right.
So the fact that it presents challenges, that's almost like a prerequisite for achieving something significant.
Yeah, it's that grit, that determination that separates the successful from the wannabes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so if your first few attempts don't work out, that's not a sign that you should give up. It's just a normal part of the process.
Totally. And sometimes it helps to hear about the struggles of other people who have made it. It just makes you realize that it's normal to go through those tough times.
Right. Now, Alman talks about this really interesting concept of friction. And he gives this example of how he was trying to find a singing teacher.
Right.
And he was just amazed at how many little steps and attempts it took just to find someone.
Hmm.
He had to search online, look at websites, fill out contact forms, and he didn't even get replies from a lot of them. It was just like this constant, friction, this resistance.
And that's a really good analogy for starting an online business, too.
Yes, absolutely.
Right.
Right. Like if you want to start a YouTube channel, there's going to be friction involved in setting up the account, coming up with ideas, filming the videos, editing them, promoting them. Like there's friction at every stage.
Yeah. There's always some obstacle, some hurdle you got to jump over.
Yeah. And the key is to not give up, to push through that friction.
Right.
Because most people, when they encounter those obstacles, they just quit.
Yep.
But the people who succeed, they recognize that friction is normal, and they find ways to overcome it.
Right. They don't let those little things derail them.
Exactly. And then there's this other excuse that a lot of people use. The timing isn't right. Life is too busy or I don't have the money or whatever.
Right. Ah, yeah, the classic "I'll start tomorrow" syndrome.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
and Ollie tells this really good story about how um, there were these doctors who had young children, and they realized that the timing was never going to be perfect. There was always going to be another exam to study for, another career milestone to achieve, something that was going to feel more urgent.
Right. There's always going to be something.
Always, right. So if you keep waiting for the perfect moment, you're never going to start.
Yeah, you'll be waiting forever.
Exactly. And Aman is a perfect example of this.
Hmm.
After that first Skillshare course, he didn't wait for the perfect moment. He just immediately started working on other things.
Okay.
He started a blog. He launched an email newsletter called Thoughtful Thursday, which is still going strong today.
Hmm.
And he started a YouTube channel.
Wow, he was on fire.
Yeah. And this was all within like a relatively short period of time.
Hmm.
And he launched his YouTube channel in July 2020. And 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 he admits that the early videos were pretty rough. The lighting was bad, the audio wasn't great, he wasn't very confident on camera, but he started anyway.
Yeah. And that's what matters, right? Like he didn't let those imperfections stop him.
Exactly. And he also focused on consistency. He decided that he was going to publish a video every single week. And even though the quality wasn't where he wanted it to be at first, he just kept going. And in that first year, he published like 20 to 30 videos.
Yeah.
And he only got about 100 subscribers.
Wow. So it was a slow burn for him.
Yeah, but he stuck with it. And that's a really important point, right?
Yeah.
Like if you want to achieve extraordinary results, you often have to make sacrifices.
Yeah, like you might have to give up some of your free time or some of your hobbies or whatever.
Exactly. Like Emmett probably had to cut back on watching TV or something like that, right?
Yeah.
To make time for his online business.
Right. There's always a trade-off.
Always. And he also talks about the importance of consuming self-improvement content consistently.
Oh, yeah, that's huge.
Yeah. Because even if you're hearing the same message over and over again, it's like that constant reinforcement can really help you internalize those principles.
It's like brainwashing yourself for success.
Yeah, exactly. And he actually used this app called Beeminder to help him stay consistent.
What's Beeminder?
So it's like this accountability app where you set a goal, and if you don't meet that goal, you have to pay money. So he set it up so that if he didn't publish a video every week, he would get charged. And he actually ended up paying them over $1,000 in fees.
Wow.
But he says that it was worth it because it kept him on track.
Yeah, it's like having a financial incentive to stay disciplined.
Exactly. And this really highlights the long grind that's often involved in building an online business. It took Aman like 3 to 4 years of consistent effort before he started making any significant money. And Ali's first viral video, that didn't happen until like 10 months in.
Yeah, so even for Ali, who's considered like a YouTube superstar, it wasn't an overnight success.
Right. And that just goes to show that that consistency really is key. And even though as creators we might feel like we're saying the same thing over and over again, it's often that repeated message that the audience needs to hear. They need to hear it multiple times before it really sinks in.
Yeah, repetition is key.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Now Aman and Ali talk about this concept of your YouTube feed reflects your priorities. Right.
Yeah.
So take a look at your YouTube feed. What are you watching? What are you consuming? Does it align with your goals? If you want to build an online business, are you watching videos about building online businesses?
Yeah, that's a good point. Like if your feed is full of cat videos and makeup tutorials, then maybe you need to reevaluate your priorities.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
And it all comes down to intentionality.
Right.
And also intrinsic motivation.
Mm.
Like Ali, he's so passionate about YouTube that it doesn't even feel like work to him.
Yeah.
He genuinely enjoys it. And that's so important, right? Like
Yeah.
finding something that you're actually excited about, something that feels like play to you.
Yeah, you got to find that thing that makes the grind feel effortless.
Absolutely. But even then, even when you're passionate about something, there are going to be days when you don't feel like doing it.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So it's important to have other motivators,
Yeah.
like your dreams, your goals, or even visualizing the negative consequences of inaction.
Yeah, like if I don't do this, then I'm going to be stuck in my dead-end job forever.
Exactly. And the thing is, you might not even know what you enjoy until you try it. Like Aman, he thought he wanted to be a music YouTuber. But then he discovered that he really enjoyed making educational content.
Yeah, so sometimes you got to experiment a little bit to find your niche.
Right. Now there was this major turning point for Aman around year 4. He realized that he needed to invest in knowledge beyond just reading books.
Okay.
So he started reading business books.
Yeah.
by people like Russell Brunson and Alex Hormozy.
Yeah.
But even more importantly, he started investing in coaching.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So he was getting coaching from people who had already achieved the level of success that he was aiming for. And he found this to be incredibly valuable.
So who was he getting coaching from?
Well, one of the programs he mentions is Captain Sid's YouTube coaching program.
Oh, yeah. I've heard of that.
Yeah. And he was a really engaged student. He came prepared to every call. He actually implemented the advice that he was given. And he says that this really supercharged his progress.
That's great. So what kind of things did he learn from the coaching?
Well, he talks about how it helped him with things like market research, how to figure out what people actually want, video titles and thumbnails, how to make them more compelling, negotiating sponsorships, and also like identifying his unique teachable skills. So for Aman, this was his experience in getting internships and jobs in software engineering.
Oh, interesting. So he was able to leverage his existing skills and knowledge to create a valuable product or service.
Exactly. And that led to this huge mental unlock for him,
Mhm.
where he realized, hey, I actually have something valuable to offer.
Mm.
And that's when he launched his software engineering accelerator program.
Nice. And I'm guessing that's when things really started taking off for him.
Absolutely. Now, for anyone listening who might be a little bit skeptical about investing in courses or coaching, maybe thinking it's a scam or whatever,
Yeah.
Amin actually addresses that directly.
Yeah.
He talks about this thing called loss aversion.
Okay.
So it's this psychological principle where we feel the pain of losing money more strongly than we feel the pleasure of gaining money.
Right.
And so we're more likely to avoid losses than we are to pursue gains. And he says that this can really hold us back from investing in ourselves.
Yeah, you're so afraid of losing a small amount of money that you miss out on the potential to earn a much larger amount.
Exactly. He also talks about how, we often spend so much time trying to save a small amount of money when we could be using that same time to earn a much larger amount.
That's a good point.
Right, like it's all about opportunity cost.
Yeah.
And he also points out that a lot of these programs, they have money-back guarantees.
Oh, okay.
So you're not really risking anything. And then there's this concept of unknown unknowns.
Unknown unknowns.
Yeah. So these are the things that you don't know that you don't know.
Okay, that's a bit of a mind bender.
Yeah. It's basically like there's knowledge out there that could be incredibly helpful to you, but you don't even know that it exists.
Right. Like you don't even know what you're missing.
Exactly. And that's why it's so valuable to learn from people who are just a few steps ahead of you.
Yeah, because they've already figured out some of those unknown unknowns.
Exactly. And Ellie adds that it's important to be an active student, right? Like when you invest in a course or coaching, you have to take responsibility for getting value out of it. You have to show up, do the work, and implement what you learn.
Right. It's not just about passively consuming information. You got to take action.
Exactly. So let's talk about the results of all this effort and investment that Aman put in.
Okay, I'm ready for this.
So in June of that year, he joined another coaching program. This one focused on sales and fulfillment. And this had an immediate impact on his business. He went from barely making like $5,000 or $6,000 a month to actually being profitable.
Wow.
Yeah. So here are his revenue numbers for the 6 months after joining that program.
Yeah.
July, $30,000. August, $30,000. September, about $30,000. October, $22,000. November, $55,000. And December, around $36,000.
Wow. That's incredible. So he was averaging over $30,000 a month in revenue.
Yeah. And his average monthly expenses were around $10,000.
Right.
So that means he was making about $20,000 in profit every single month.
Which is double what he was making as a software engineer.
Or double, yeah. And the really crazy thing is he actually quit his job 4 or 5 months before he hit this level of profitability.
Wow. So he was really all in on this. He
Yeah.
had that much faith in himself and his business.
Yeah. And he describes his current feelings as a sense of confidence, security, freedom, and flexibility. He doesn't have to ask for permission to take time off. He can work whenever he wants, wherever he wants. Like he's living the dream.
That's awesome.
So let's wrap this up, this deep dive. What are the core takeaways? What are the things that we can actually take away from this and apply to our own lives?
Well, I think the biggest takeaway is that it's possible. Like, Amanan went from being a broke college student to making $20,000 a month in profit online.
Yeah.
And he did it in a relatively short period of time.
Yeah.
So if he can do it, we can do it too.
And it really comes down to a few key principles.
Right.
You got to take that first step. You got to be willing to act, to put yourself out there, even if you're not 100% ready.
Yeah.
You got to be okay with failing and learning from those failures. You got to be able to push through friction, to overcome those obstacles that are inevitably going to come up. You got to be
Um,
consistent. You got to be a lifelong learner, always investing in your knowledge and development.
And I think it's also important to find something that you're passionate about, something that you genuinely enjoy doing, because that's going to make the whole process a lot easier and more enjoyable.
Absolutely. So what was Ullman's final piece of advice for people who are still on the sidelines, who are watching all this content but haven't taken any action yet?
He said that if you're serious about making money online, you should invest in educational resources,
Okay.
like courses or coaching. He also said that it takes time and effort. It's not going to happen overnight. But if you're willing to put in the work and stay consistent, you can achieve amazing results.
Absolutely. So here's a final thought for you to chew on. What's one small action that you can take today, no matter how imperfect, to move closer to your online income goals?
Yeah, what's that one tiny step you can take right now to get the ball rolling?
And what friction are you currently facing? How can you push through it and take that next step? Thanks for diving deep with us.
So, yes.